You can fail a lot and get a lot better through your failures. And trying new things, sometimes just trusting the process will create so much more than you can ever have dreamed of by just continuing to dive in and continuing to, follow what makes you feel good or happy or what you think is going to be successful.
Welcome to the Venue RX. On this show, we document and share best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues.
Bobby Bramhall, welcome to the Venue RX. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, Jonathan. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So this is going to be an exciting episode for anyone who's listening or watching because we've never had someone who has got to the level with professional sports, with collegiate sports than you have, and who also has such an incredible variety of experiences across multiple industries. And so I'm excited about this episode. We're not only going to hear about, your venues plural, that you have, but I'm excited to dive into, some of the other parts of your journey and how you got here. So could you kind of kick us off? What do you do right now professionally? Kind of where are you at? And then we'll unpack some of the venue stuff and some of the other parts of your story.
Sure. So I'm a bit of an entrepreneur. I kind of bounced around during my professional baseball career trying to figure out what it was going to be after baseball was over. And so I went to law school. I teach sports law in a class called NIL in the law at the University of Tennessee College of Law. I have a sports practice called Bramhall Sports Consulting that handles facilities and agencies and some clients needing sports legal work. And then I own the Holston Springs venue. And then I own the stables at Strawberry Creek, which is another wedding venue. So I run operations and the accounting and things like that, but my staff really holds it together at those places.
Very neat, very neat. You went to Rice University, correct?
To Rice in Houston, that's right.
Awesome. So we actually have something in common. I realized as I was doing a little bit of research, we were both born in Fort Worth.
Heck, let's go. Harris Hospital.
Yeah, Harris Hospital. Same thing, Harris Methodist. Yeah.
Hey, man, that's great. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you've got I think 4 years on me, but yeah, I looked, I'm like, no way, that is so cool. Going from, so before we get into the venues, I want to kind of unpack your journey. You are in high school. At what point did you want to go to the major leagues and play pro ball? Like, at what point did that form in your life?
Sure, great question. Whenever I was coming up, my dad was the director of sports medicine at Texas A&M. So I was always around athletics from an early age, and he actually played at A&M. So we're living in College Station. He's always talking about A&M baseball. And it was kind of part of my journey growing up that I was going to go to camp and get that training at an early age. Well, we just happened to have a Little League team that won the state championship in Little League. And this is before tournament ball was really a thing. So what is travel and what is select these days through Perfect Game USA and these big organizations? There wasn't really that when I was growing up. So Little League was the thing. So we win state, we go and we play Team Florida in the finals to go to the Williamsport thing, in the Little League World Series. And we lost on a squeeze button like the ninth or 10th inning. And so we came home and we're hometown heroes at 12 years old. But that's what made me serious. He said, man, we actually might be good at this. And each next level, we were able to win and show that even through high school, we were, part of the best group in the state. So I knew getting letters and getting the interest early on in high school that I would probably get to go play in college at some level. I just didn't know where it would go from there. So it started early and became sort of a dedication where we were playing about 60 games a summer from the time I was about 14 or 15 years old on.
So, dang, that's so awesome. This is a complete, side part of your story from the venues and everything, but I think it's really fascinating and worth noting to the audience. If you have kids who are playing baseball, you got to check out Bobby's book called Who's on First. So it's kind of funny. I heard about Bobby and then I went and I just Googled his name and it came up with this book. And I'm like, wait, what is this book about? Because my son plays. And I mean, the wealth of information that you and your co-author, Nate, correct?
That's right.
You guys, the wealth of information that's in there about that process that you just described of going through and the showcases and the tournaments and how to navigate that from both a parent and a player perspective. It's just like unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. So thank you for putting that out there for everyone.
You got it. I'll talk about it for a sec if you don't care.
Yeah, please.
So Nate is one of my best friends. He was in my wedding. He is, aside from being a great person, he's a great hitting coach. So he's a great baseball guy. He's a baseball mind. He grew up in a baseball family. You probably know the name Chase Headley, who was, an all-star, a Gold Glove winner, Padres, Yankees, that kind of thing. So he's Chase's brother. And so Nate's always been around the game as well. Nate played JUCO baseball. He was an athlete. So being with somebody that understands the game and had the same experiences like I did, we were an easy team, knowing this is what we need to do. This is the direction we're going to take the book. And I don't know if one time we disagreed on the content. I mean, he's talking, I'm talking. We were totally in line with where this needed to go and what needed to be shared. I think for me, the reason I wanted to write the book for parents and players is because, one, there's a huge market. I think youth sports right now is like $40 billion. I mean, it's insane. Baseball alone might be like 7 to 10. So you have a huge market where people are really needing information because they're spending a lot of money, right? But number two is I got to a place in my career where I truly wish somebody had helped me with some major information and decisions that I didn't know at the time. So you get to these crossroads, and if you just had somebody to say, go this direction, it would have saved a lot of heartache or a lot of effort or whatever it may be. And so I felt like if I can just put this all in a book, then somebody going through this process can skip through all the maybe errant spending and all the frustrations that you face and just go right to the point. Well, how do we get good? How do we, become a great teammate? How do we respect our coaches? And what's the path that we take with the investment we're making for these years? So that was kind of the, reason behind it. Is it takes so much to get there, and you have to be talented, yes, but sometimes you can be talented and miss a decision, pick the wrong college or not know the right, hitting coach to go train with, and it can really change your path. So I felt like the more we can give somebody in advance gives everybody a level playing field to see who rises up instead of really just who knew the answers at the time. So,
yeah. And who had the connections. This is kind of people's opportunity to have an insider perspective on what the process is like. Bobby, one of the things that I really, really appreciated about the book as we've been going through it, and we've been going through it with my son, is you provide very specific information at a lot of different places in the book. And I think that's powerful because you get a lot of books out there that are just like, general stuff, like A in general, pick a good coach, get some private instruction, right? That's what you need. Okay, that's fine. And I think we would all understand that at a certain level, but you really dive into it. Like, what does it mean? Like, what does good instruction look like? Like, how do you pick a private instructor? For the parents, like, what are you looking at, to like understand, are you spending the money? So I love it. I mean, I'm we bought the audio book too. So we're really excited about that. So I appreciate you putting that out there for everyone.
Thanks. Yeah. Perfect Game USA picked it up, and they're going to run it as part of their holiday offerings. And for the next 6 months, we're actually in an exclusive contract with Perfect Game USA. So it's really cool to see this thing spread and know that it's going to get in the hands of people like you that really appreciate it, And the specifics you talked about, it's funny because we wanted it to be so specific where you could say, am I allowed to have my cell phone and video my kid? We say, absolutely yes. You're the one paying for the lesson, but the coach may have something to talk to you about. So we wanted people to understand, like, you're allowed to ask the hard questions because that's what this book is for.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we could probably have a whole podcast just on that. So
we can put it on.
Yeah, don't want to spend too much time on that, but let's go through the rest of your career. So you're at Rice, you graduate. Did you end up graduating, or did you go kind of give us your baseball path after that?
Sure. So I was an All-American at Rice. I signed as a junior and felt like it was a good opportunity for me to go into the draft. I felt that we had accomplished a ton. We were back-to-back in the World Series in the Final Four 2 years in a row, and I had a really good year. So it was time for me to move on. But I came back and finished my degree in consecutive winter or fall semesters after my baseball seasons. So that was pretty fun to be able to do that and then have the degree. So then I played 7 years of professional baseball. I started bouncing around after an injury. So I had Tommy John twice and had a surgery that didn't go well. So that was tough, but I got to play for the Marlins, the Phillies, the Nationals, and the Brewers. And then my last year, I got to go play in the Puerto Rico Professional League. And the cool thing about that for me is I had really good Latino friends during my career. Martin Maldonado is one of my best friends from, the Astros. You probably know that name. Well, he came up with me in the minor leagues, and I got to go play in his league and go to, Thanksgiving at his house and be a part of that culture. And so looking at the end of that, I got an offer to go play in Taiwan and maybe go back to the minor leagues again. And at that point, I hung it up and went to law school because I felt like I had accomplished what I wanted to. And if I wasn't going to continue to rise and I was going to kind of go laterally, it was time for me to move on. So that was my path from, high school through college and professional.
Now, this is something that I've wanted to ask you. Why choose law? Like, after your professional and scholastic career so far, why was law the next practical step for you?
Great question. For me, I felt that there was always a ceiling based on a coach's judgment or how good your team was, or maybe even the tools that you had on the field. And I wanted to enter a career after baseball that there was no ceiling, where it was the more information you know, the better you can be. I think lawyers don't have to practice law specifically. They can be anything. They can be an administrator. They know how to read and write, and they can handle a lot of responsibility with the ethical code that we have to take, where if you enter another profession, you might be very confined to certain, boundaries is what you're allowed to perform. So I went into law thinking I might be an agent, I might be a sports lawyer. I'm not sure where this is going to go, but I just wanted to have something where I could make my own path and achieve whatever I wanted to in the next phase of my life. And I knew, being a lawyer, it's a great, noble pursuit, but at the same time, you're getting pounded with information. And so you're going to learn a lot. It's an experiential 3 years going to law school.
Yeah, that makes total sense, especially both on the legal side. And then it makes me think of medicine. If you know health and healthcare, there's a million different directions that you can take that. You can work with the government, you can work with, you can do a million different things. Same thing with law. You can take it in the business direction, you can practice law, you can, do a number of things. So this kind of leads me to the culmination of all these questions. How did you get into a wedding venue after all of this stuff? You're in sports, you're in law, so how does the wedding venue come into play here?
Well, that's what everybody wants to do, is stack chairs and wipe tables, right? That's what they want their whole life to be.
So. The dream.
So I've been a real estate guy since I put my signing bonus into my first rental property out of, it was 2009. And so I wanted to continue my real estate journey, and I got good at just hospitality and understanding, tenants and people on the property and that kind of thing. So I started that investment process. Well, I was living on a horse farm that my family owned, and it was just a kind of a horse farm that was, kind of going backwards. And I was mowing through law school 30 to 50 acres a week. And I was mowing for free, and I was going, how in the world am I going to keep dedicating all this time when I have other things I need to be doing? I said, I have to monetize this. Why am I mowing? Because I need to turn this property into somewhere that somebody wants to come. So I started on Airbnb and VRBO and started renting our historic log cabin. And it was a cool cabin. I didn't build it. It's beautiful. So we remodeled the kitchen and made it where, I think it was 2014 when that was kind of getting going. 10 years ago, Airbnb was exploding. VRBO was getting big. And so people started renting it and going, can I have a wedding here? Or what do I need to do to stay on the property for a week? And Nate Headley, he gets married as my first wedding on the property. He goes, let us just get married here and we'll give you the trial run, And their pictures were beautiful. We had a great weekend. And after that, I started opening it up as a venue. So went in partnership with a wedding coordinator, and we started bringing in clients. And I'm talking within a year, we were at 20 weddings. And now we're at 40 on one property, and it just exploded. So what happened was I just basically remodeled and refurbished this, very nice English riding stables that we have, and then had the cabin to rent as the bridal suite and overnight. And it exploded into a wedding venue that was really needed in Knoxville, with a huge wedding industry in East Tennessee, kind of in the mountains,
I'm curious. I'm curious about the decision to hire. You said a wedding coordinator, correct?
That's right.
So a lot of times people, in just my experience in the industry, people will go a couple of different ways with the management of their property. They'll self-manage, they'll bring in a management company. But a lot of times people self-manage. A lot of owner-operators come through. It seems like very quickly you came at the project with a different mindset. Was that because you were evaluating the property as more of a real estate investment, or were you considering actively running a wedding venue business?
I think I've always looked at the big picture first and then gotten to the details. And it might be my, baseball team experience of knowing my role or knowing somebody else's role, responsibility. But I felt that there was things I could not do on this property. I don't know anything at the time about floral or, wedding decorations and things like that. I knew how to make a property very pretty and clean. I knew tables and chairs. I can do the physical part, and I know how to, provide hospitality to guests. I did not know the other side, that the bride was needing all the vendors and everything that we know now. So I said, I've got to have a team to bring this in. And I knew that a team would actually expand our offerings. We've got wedding coordinating, and we have vendors, and we've got anything overnight that somebody might need to stay. So I think it was a real estate investment because I didn't particularly have a passion for weddings. I have a passion for people and providing value to people at real estate, and when they want to come and have a great weekend on the property, I enjoy that experience of providing that, but it didn't necessarily have to be weddings. I think weddings became the thing that allowed us to grow quickly because you can host 200 people on a giant horse farm, whereas other places you just can't get that done.
Hey there, thanks so much for watching or listening. I wanted to take a moment and share about Common Sense Events. Common Sense Events is my company that professionally manages and operates venues all across the United States, and we're looking to work with a couple more venues this year. If you own a venue in Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, North Carolina, we are looking to work with you. Our company comes in and takes care of the marketing, the sales, the operations. We hire all of the employees, we manage all the employees, and primarily our agreements are based off of revenue share models. So it's a very affordable way to have your venue professionally managed. And this is especially good if you're thinking about retiring, selling your venue, but maybe you don't want to sell the land, or you're looking for another management option than you currently have in place. If you're interested in this, please reach out by email at venues@cseventservices.com, or you can also click the link in the description of this video or podcast. We'd love to hear from you and look forward to seeing if there's a way for us to serve you. Yeah. And then you also had the overnight component. At what point did you add on Holston Springs?
Holston Springs was my COVID project. So for 3 or 4 years in a row, every group of groomsmen would come in and say, I love the bridal cabin, but the girls have claimed that. Do you have anywhere else for us to stay? So for years, I was like, man, I gotta build this thing, or I gotta buy another cabin. And I tried to buy one and lost on the offer. And I said, you know what? Forget it. We're going to build our own. And so I undertook the project, had a great builder, and we did it custom. So we did a venue on the bottom, and then we did a residence on top. And the cool thing about the venue on the bottom is it was supposed to just be like a horse stable. So I was going to do the exact same plan that I had at Strawberry Creek at Holston Springs. And we were in the middle of building it out. And the builder came to me and he goes, do you really want to have your entire residence and lodge upstairs smelling like horse crap all day? Like, is that what you want? And I was like, is it going to smell bad? And he goes, you wouldn't believe this whole place is going to smell like a horse barn. And so I said, okay, what if we put the stables outside and created a venue underneath? He goes, I'll get to work. So we did, the brick and the lighting and the floors and made it an actual venue instead of horse stables. So I was thinking it was going to be horse stables with maybe some dinner accommodations. Now we do Friday night rehearsal dinners, weddings, anything you need, and then everybody can still stay on the second floor lodge. So that was 2020 and 2021. So we finished at the end of 2021, and we've been open for business since early 2022 at that place. And what's interesting is a lot of weddings, they'll rent both. They want the Strawberry Creek and then add on Holston Springs. And then some folks just want a very small, intimate wedding at Holston Springs, and Strawberry Creek is its own separate venue as well.
That's so cool. There's a property here in California called Hummingbird Nest Ranch, and they have the horse stables, but they have multiple ceremony sites and reception sites, and you can, lodging, of course, on site and all that. And that seems like exactly what you've done here. You've kind of created a place that, you can use the pieces individually, or you can use them all together for like a big weekend experience.
That's right.
Very neat, very neat. Let's transition a little bit, dive into the actual venue questions themselves. And I know you said you had a team running it. I'm excited to talk about that because I think that, especially after years 3, 5, 7, owners start thinking about, do I want to be out here? And to your point, like, do I want to be out here setting up tables and chairs the whole time? And, managing a team is difficult, hiring great people and things like that. And so I'm curious, as you started this process, what were some of the key ways that you evaluated who you needed on your team to help make this project happen?
Man, great question. I ran the place by myself for 2 or 3 years with the help of the wedding coordinator that I was partnered with. And it became a deal where she did her part, I did my part, and there was still a gap. It was either I had to be there, as you know, every single weekend for 50 hours from Friday to Sunday night, and I'm still working Monday kind of thing, or they're doing their part and I'm having to either fill in or provide more value that's being asked. So I felt like all the time there was never enough staff. So for 2 or 3 years, I wore myself ragged and learned a lot in the process. I think sometimes you go through those grinding periods and you come out much better for it. But at some point I said, I really want to hire a manager. I want somebody that will do the marketing and will do a lot of the client communication so that I can look big picture and stop being in the weeds all day. So if I'm working 80 hours a week at the venue and mowing and doing things that need to get taken care of, I'm not able to see the bigger picture for where this needs to go to grow, opportunities I need to have, learn about the industry. And I was exhausted. I would just fall on the bed at night and I wouldn't want to listen to, your podcast and learn more about how to be a better owner. I was like, man, I'm just working my tail off, right? So I hired a few managers over the years and they would stay about a year. And I think because we were so busy and there was so much to do, they would always be tired at the end of the year. They were always good people, but they said, I can go do something else. I'm exhausted. And I totally understood. I said, well, this is what we make. This is what we do. It's how we do it. Well, I finally was able 1 year to go over the hump and provide some better packages and increase our revenue. And once we got revenue, I was able to offer packages to employees with health insurance and really stay money, where they said, this is a great career job for me. They're learning a lot. I'm able to give a lot of days off. And so my team now has been what I call is the evolution of finding somebody that can do the labor, can do the client communication, and then can do their part. So now I've got 3 full-time staff members that do something very specific, and then they can cross over to help out when needed. So I think your question was, how did I get to understand what my employees really needed and how did I understand where that was going to go? I think it was just learning, okay, one person can't do all of that. So I need somebody that's super physical and super athletic to do a lot of the hard lifting. Then I need somebody that understands floral appointments and cake and how to talk to vendors and how commissions work and those things. That's a completely different skill set. So I hired somebody out of the wedding coordinating industry full-time there. Then I have somebody that does all the cleaning and property management, oversees our mowers and weed eater, work and things like that. So it pieced together great, but I'm telling you, as you know, it takes revenue to keep people around because nobody's going to sit around whenever they're not getting paid much or the work is just too strenuous and the hours are too long.
Yeah. In Knoxville, what's your season like? Or do you have multiple?
We January, February, we're usually light. We have some weddings. We're probably 2 to 3 a month. And we have the indoor now at Holston Springs, which is fantastic. So we've got the heat and everything. But really from late March until end of November, we are completely packed. It's a little light in July because it's hot. And so people say, air conditioning at Holston Springs is great. We don't have AC at Strawberry Creek. It's a big open barn concept. So July is usually 3 to 4 weddings. But I'm telling you, in the fall, we'll do 9 or 10 in October because the fall is so beautiful in East Tennessee. So I would say mostly our season's from April 1st to the end of November.
Approximately how many weddings are you doing per year? Or what was your peak maybe?
Yeah. So we did about 40 at Strawberry Creek and we did about 18 at Holston Springs this past year. So we're just turning over the marketing on Holston Springs being year 2. So I'm hoping to get to 25 to 40. But we're completely comfortable having the Airbnb and VRBO overnight, just continuing to offer that because people come in for football games or whatever else if we're not having a wedding on that weekend.
Yeah, that's really cool how you can deploy the different parts of the property. I love that. So before we get into some more of the marketing and the different things there, I'm wondering, I hear you did 2 things, and correct me if I'm wrong. You did a renovation for Strawberry Creek, and then you did a new build, right? So a little bit of it. What did you prefer? I'm really curious about this.
Okay, so the renovation to me was piecemeal. So we did concrete 1 year. The next year was all chandeliers. The next year was walls and, landscaping and making it prettier. So I felt like every year, they say to do 3 things every quarter to make your business better. And that's any business, right? So I'd say, what 3 things do we need? All right, we need new chandeliers. We need a new, bathroom sink and vanity or whatever it was. So we just tried to improve the stables over time. Holston Springs was, that's a project now. You're learning from, laying the foundation, concrete, all the way until you're putting sheets on the beds. You're picking out every color, every design, hoping that it's something that, brides right now are wanting. So that's a very different thing. I say Holston Springs was a lot more fun for me because I was able to pick like my style and understand what I want to offer. If I'm investing in real estate, I want to offer something that I would buy. The stables is fantastic. It's just that for a very specific person, they must love animals or they must like the way a big open barn feels. So we've done some cool things to class it up. But that's a good question. I think the stables probably was more fun because I think you're turning, what's the word? A lump of coal into a diamond. You're going, I don't know what this is. And then bam, people come and they love it. For Holston Springs, it's really slick from the beginning. So you kind of know what you're getting when people walk in.
Was it difficult or maybe even surprising to you working with the county or city to get permitting or any of the inspections or anything like that? What was that process like?
Yeah. So we actually went through that. It was, I had to go in front of the zoning commission. I had to go in front of the planning commission for, just allowing a venue in our region or our zone to happen. We're in an ag zone, but it has the exception to have what's called a rural retreat. And that allows for events and everything we're doing to take place. So it's interesting. You want to start something and know that it's going to be successful before you do. So that's what I did is we got it going and really weren't planning on it getting that big. And once we did, we were able to go apply for the proper permitting and things like that. So it's been a process. I've learned a lot about, the planning office and, Knox County. And they're great people, very patient with us. But I didn't realize how much expense it was going to cost and the filing it was going to take just to get things approved. So just actually finished that process this past November when we built the Glamp Knox Canvas Campground on our property, which we could talk about. But it's just glamping. And even glamping now needs a permit. And I thought it was just lodging. So we went through that process and learned a lot as well.
Yeah. So I am curious. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about it now. So adding that glamping component, was that because you wanted to have more overnight accommodations, or was that in response to a need that you kind of heard from clients?
That's a need. I've got into the outdoors being in East Tennessee, had a rooftop tent for a while, which my wife makes fun of me for, and I loved it. I'm a camper. But I was hiking and camping and around all these folks that were saying, I love being in the woods, or they're investing a lot of money, and I'm going to REI and seeing how much all this gear costs, right? And you're going, this is a big deal. So I found a company here that had a glamping tent on display down in the Smoky Mountains. And I just passed it one day and I just pulled a Yui and went in and I go, these are awesome. They're a big safari tent with, I think all the lumber comes from, Europe, and it's really beautiful. And I said, I'm going to do one and I'm going to rent it out on Airbnb and I'm going to see the response. And if people don't like it, you know what? I'm going to have a really good time camping in the woods by myself. It's going to be neat. So invested the money. We built it. I paid it off in like 4 months. Wow. And so it was so fast that I was like, this is something that people really want. And it was honestly, weddings are great, but as we know, they're very specific and there's a lot of demands from the families. And sometimes we get blamed, the chairs weren't perfect. And it's like, well, yeah, I saw your brother moving him before the ceremony, like that kind of thing, right? We get a lot of traffic like that. Well, the glamping people were just like, we're just happy to be outside. Thank you for this opportunity to be here. And I felt like the engagement with clients was really easy. And they were so gracious that I was like, I got to build more because I want more of this energy on the property. So that's where it came from. Now we got 3 tents. We can sleep about 14 people up there. And I have, plans to keep expanding because it just became like grow because of the demand.
Cool. Are they almost like a yurt style? Just for anyone who's listening podcast, is it like a yurt where it's more round? Is it like your traditional tent, but maybe a bit larger? What's the format?
Yeah. So if you just in Google put Glamp Knox Canvas Campground, and it looks like a yurt, but it has like big extension porches with the big tarp that comes over, so you're rainproof all the time. And it's the safari looking tent. Inside, I have full beds I offer, queen beds, Jackery charging stations, comforters, water, the whole thing. So they're actually getting everything they would need to set up in a camping experience.
Oh, that's so neat. That's awesome.
You might come. Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool.
The great thing too is folks don't have to go, like you said, to REI and invest all this money. A lot of times people may like to camp or may be able to camp once a year and not be able to do it as much. So having something like this is great because you can come out and experience that, but then, not have to invest in all the gear and everything you'll need to actually make it a reality on a regular basis.
Exactly. We got fire pit. We have everything they would need to come without having to have a truckload of stuff like we all have to do in the woods,
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's remarkable. That's so cool. So let's get into some of the marketing and stuff. Were you originally the one, you said for about 2 years you did it all by yourself. Were you touring clients? Were you booking clients? You were kind of doing the whole sales cycle?
Yeah, I've done it all. I was doing all of the answering on whether it's Wedding Wire or The Knot or whatever the lead platform was. Then I was doing Sunday tours. So all Sunday from like 11 a.m. until 4 p.m., I was taking all tours together. This is during law school. So I'd get up, finish my cleanup from the night before wedding, tours all day, study all Sunday night, go to class all week. So it was a lot, but I learned a lot because I understood kind of how to be efficient and not sit around all day having conversations that don't matter. I learned to say, what do you need as a client? How can I deliver that for you? And then efficiently, what is it that, tours need? So people were always asking for tours Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. A tip for wedding owners out here, I mean, you probably do the same, but it took me a minute to figure it out. I do all my tours on Sunday afternoons. One, the reason is because the checkout from our cabin in Holston Springs and the glamping area that people love to see, it's all open from 11 to 3 because we're cleaning everything. So we do tours during that time, so there's no crossover for somebody not getting to see one of the lodges that they may get to stay in. But number two, that's turnover day. We're turning it over for the next week on Sunday so everybody can take Monday and Tuesday off and rest. So that's what I do is I would do tours all day Sunday, and then I would do the occasional Friday tour or maybe Wednesday night if you had a client who couldn't quite work around a weekend. Marketing-wise, I started doing, obviously Google ads and, buying a subscription with Wedding Wire. I do some of the bride shows in the local area. The bride shows allow you just to get in front of clients and understand what they need. As a venue, I'm not going to book anybody at a bride show. If people think, I got to bring all this stuff and convince them to book a wedding with me, they're going to come see the venue one way or another. So we don't really stress about it. We go to the bride show, we engage with clients, we get them to come out to an open house, and that's kind of how we do it. And so that's what I learned over time is I don't have time it was like 4 jobs in one. I don't have time to sit around and brainstorm. I have to go get information from clients, be efficient with what they need, and then move forward. So I try to be lean on marketing, but really the better money you spend on marketing websites, the more traffic you're going to get for people that at least want to come see the property.
Yeah. You mentioned bridal shows. I'm curious. A lot of people will say, bridal shows, they're not worth it. Or people will say, I love bridal shows. I haven't really heard too much in between. It's either like they're great or they're terrible. Don't waste your time. But it sounds like maybe your idea on it is a little bit different. You're not looking to make the bridal show worth it. You're just using the bridal show for exposure. Am I hearing you correctly?
That's it. Yeah, you're just getting a list of folks that are interested in your venue, and then you get them out. Some people spend all day at a bridal show, basing their judgment of who they are as a person on whether people come to the venue. And there's just nothing that you can do except offer them your materials, get in front of people who are interested. You're not marketing to just the internet. You're marketing to like brides this year, which is why a bridal show is valuable.
Yeah. Do you think that in 2024 and beyond, just in your experience with the venues that you have, that bridal shows will continue to be a really good avenue for venues to get their name out there?
I think Instagram and, even Google ads are probably more effective because most brides are searching on Wedding Wire or whatever on their phone at night. So these couples are doing all their research through electronic means. But bridal shows, I think, do engage with the serious, couples. I'm not going to a bridal show unless I'm getting married, right? So the people that are showing up actually are going to be getting married soon. So it's a good option to get in front of them. The hard thing is there's still the internet, so they're still going to go home and keep searching the other 10 or 15 venues they might be interested in. So it's just a shot to me to, have their contact information, have met them, and develop that trust relationship. I would say consider the price you're paying, because I think if you get too expensive for a bridal show, you're spending money on your booth, your own time, and then whatever it is that you had to put in your booth might be a little expensive if you look at your whole marketing package of what that should be.
Hey friends, Jonathan here. Just want to take a moment and share about Common Sense Events consulting packages. We are really excited to be consulting with a few more companies this year, and we've done it in the past successfully, and it's been such a blast. So this year, we want to take on a couple more consulting clients. Unfortunately, because of the venues that we currently manage and the intention and the focus that we have on that, we're only able to take on a limited amount, but we do have a couple slots for venues. So if you are interested, we have both 90 and 120-day programs available, or we can come in and partner with you on marketing, sales, operations, and help fine-tune any of the systems that are in those categories. So if you're interested in that, we would absolutely love to hear from you and see if there's a way that we could partner with you and serve you at your venue. Go ahead, fill out the link that is in the description in this video or podcast. You can also just send us an email at venues@cseventservices.com, and we'd love to chat with you. All right, back to the show.
Yeah, I like that. Those are some really good considerations. Moving through, I heard you say a couple times Google Ads. You said Google Ads, you said, Instagram. From your perspective and your experience so far, if you had to compare Google Ads and Wedding Wire or similar platforms, and let's say you could only choose one, which would you use?
I don't know if we have any Wedding Wire listeners here, but I have felt for years that I'm overpaying for Wedding Wire. Okay. And I'll just be honest. I think that it's a great engagement platform. I'm sure that there's lots of leads, and they've always told me we advertise for you. So even though a bride may not be on the app, when they search into Google, your Wedding Wire page is one of the first ones to pop up because of SEO. And so then they're getting to see your page there and then go forward. I totally agree with that. It's a huge expense. So for me, I'm not quite sure what brings in the traffic more, whether it's Wedding Wire being interested brides or just putting in your SEO into a Google ad. But Google ads are so cheap. And when somebody types in venue Knoxville and we're the first 3 or 4 to pop up, that's pretty good exposure for a very low cost. So I'm kind of in the middle. I do both because you never know exactly. I mean, if I sell 2 or 3 weddings on Wedding Wire a year, that's worth it. But I think if I had to choose one, I would probably invest more in maybe just general internet marketing. And they could prove me wrong. I mean, I know my representative will probably call me tonight and say, you bash me and I want to tell you why we're valuable. And I get that. But over the years, I felt like it just takes a lot of time and effort to engage with Wedding Wire, whereas we just get leads all the time and calls and emails just from having these Google ads that really don't require a lot of back and forth. So we get tours set up really quickly, other ways.
That's a good perspective. And, this show very, very purposefully is middle of the road. Like we're not really endorsing one direction or another. We're really asking the questions because we want to hear what's working for people. And especially here on the Venue Owner Series, it's like, hey, what's working for you? Maybe it's different than what's working for someone else. I will say that I have seen a difference in what's effective marketing for people based on their price point. Because to your point, if you've got a higher price point, your venue, you're selling it for $8,500, $9,500, $12,500, whatever it is, those ads, those placements on Wedding Wire, they're not. If you even do one, you may have paid for the whole year. And if you get 5, it's a great investment, right? So you kind of have to understand where your pricing is. Were there in this whole picture of starting this venue and you've been a student of the game of baseball, you've been a law student at this point, student of the law, now studying the wedding industry and just kind of your ability to be effective. Were there resources or tools, books, podcasts, maybe even like this one, coaches, mentors, anyone that you tapped into to help you continue to learn more and more and more about your business?
Yeah. So just from an entrepreneurial perspective, I'm a huge Tim Ferriss fan. And I actually put it in the book. You'll read in the last page, it says, I want to say thank you to Tim Ferriss. I don't know him personally, but his encouragement just through his general the guests he had on and the advice he gives and the vulnerability he shares showed me that you can fail a lot and get a lot better through your failures. And trying new things, sometimes just trusting the process will create so much more than you can ever have dreamed of by just continuing to dive in and continuing to, follow what makes you feel good or happy or what you think is going to be successful. So that's, for me, I kept just discovering more about myself. And it was kind of a real-time MBA, right? I was getting business training. I was getting client training. I was understanding accounting and taxes and how to finance different projects. That, to me, there's nothing more valuable than just doing it. So you'll learn. But I will say I'm going to give a lot of credit to the first wedding coordinator that I ever had at our venue. Her name was Christy Myers. And so she started this thing on her own out of a Honda. And she had a Honda CRV. She was opening up her back lift saying, I have some flowers for you and some lanterns. Let's put them on the table. And her wedding business exploded. So she was with me for 3 or 4 years while we were building up the venue. And, we were sharing commissions and things like that so that we could bring in clients. She was fantastic, right? So she taught me a lot of the wedding side that I didn't necessarily know of. Champagne bottles in the bedroom. You better do it. They're going to love it, and things that I didn't understand about the bride side. So I give her a ton of credit for teaching me the bridal side of this entire industry because she was doing the coordination and the planning. The real estate side, I would say that's my family. That's my experience just running properties and understanding how to be great to guests and, showing up to clean, really well-managed properties that look like a manicured golf course. Everybody's really happy. And so I felt like that was just my dedication of understanding where to go get great lawn care, how to make it look beautiful so that when people come, they know that they're going to get something, a reliable experience. They're not going to show up on wedding day with weeds popping through the cracks in the sidewalk and just, it's not what they expected it to be. So that's discipline on the property side for me. But I give Christy Myers a ton of credit for teaching me about the wedding industry when I don't think that I really cared about the wedding industry when I started. I cared about offering value any way that it came on the property, and it happened to be weddings.
That makes so much sense. And I think you've uncovered a huge hack for any new venue owners that are listening. If you can, essentially you are buying the experience that she had in the form of a commission share, right? And that's kind of roughly heard that what you said. Yeah. But the interesting part about that is you had the property and she had some of the experience. You needed the experience and, there was an opportunity for her to go and be on the property and leverage that and take part in the revenue that was generated there. So even though you gave up some commissions, some revenue from that was money. It sounds like it was money really well spent because you got your education all along the way.
There's no doubt. And what happened is she got so big. I mean, she owns an entire, vendor network now that she has catering and all the good things that they can offer. So what we did is I hired somebody in-house and said, we can offer the wedding coordination in-house now. And we still actually use some of their catering. And I talk to Christy often. So it's all a good relationship. But we eventually became so big that we kind of branched off and did our own thing, which is just business. And that's how it goes. So you learn a lot from your experiences and you move on and you say, thank you.
Yeah, that's incredible. I want to wrap this portion just asking a little bit more about some of the nuts and bolts, some of the operations back-end pieces. When someone books at, let's just take Stables at Strawberry Creek, what's the rental period like? Are they getting tables, chairs? Is it more all-inclusive? Give me some of those details.
Sure. So we do full weekend packages. And people have always told me, you need to do just Friday night and just Saturday night and just Sunday and make, more revenue. I've always felt that offering Friday to Sunday creates an overnight bed and breakfast experience that nobody else can offer in Knoxville. So we're the only overnight in Knoxville, and it allows them to check in on Friday at 3:00, drop off their stuff, have a rehearsal dinner at the stables if they'd like. They have the rehearsal practice, and then they wake up there Sunday morning. So they get breakfast delivered. Hair and makeup comes to them on Saturday on property. So they're getting all day Saturday to change and do photography. Then they do their ceremony and reception, and then they don't have to check out until Sunday. So they get to stay on property after that. So we have a wedding turn down service that we come in, we clean the cabin, we turn it down, make sure that the bride and groom are coming back to a great place. And then they come out Sunday. So my packages include everything. I call it the triple crown is what we call it. And it keeps with the horse theme. is it's everything you could want. It's tables and chairs, staff, setup, cleanup, overnight accommodations, rehearsal dinner, ceremony, and reception. So they're getting everything they might want. They're paying a little more than you would getting, piecemeal. But I will say, when you start nickel and diming, you end up paying a lot more for tables and chairs unless that's already offered in your package. So some people say, am I paying for these tables and chairs? I'm like, they're actually free for you. I mean, it's part of the venue package. And if somebody were to tell you to go down the road, it'd be $1,500 just for your chairs. So you might as well just come to the place where we have them all. We get them set up for you.
Yeah. Delivery fee here, delivery fee there, service fee, gratuity, boom, 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 all the different things. And all those extra fees add up when you don't have kind of that one point. So I don't know if you said this. Do you do catering? Is catering included in that?
We don't include the catering unless it's in our, what we call a Triple Crown Gold. So we have a Triple Crown Gold, which is all of your vendors. So we do your planning and coordination, your floral, DJ, catering, cake, linens. I mean, the whole works. So we do have the upgrade. Most people, will either choose from doing it themselves and having a planner, or they just say, please do it all. And it's interesting. The longer I've been in this, the more people want just the all-inclusive package from us, because they don't know what to do. They come in and they go, I don't know how to plan all this. And so that's what we do, is we have the gold package upgrade that allows catering to be a part of it. We got an in-house caterer, an in-house floral, everybody that comes in and provides for their wedding weekend.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you can not only do more of a blank canvas style, meaning you still come in, you do the weekend, but then you can choose your vendors, you can choose your planner, things like that. And and the Triple Crown, that is the turn down service and staff, set up of tables and chairs, things like that. Triple Crown Gold is the part that includes, the package that includes not only that, but then also on top, vendors, floral, is it DJ and all the vendors?
Everything except for alcohol, because some people don't want alcohol for their wedding.
Yeah.
So we add that on. But yeah, you've got everything the venue can offer. That's the Triple Crown, or everything the venue can offer, plus all the vendors you need, all in one package. That's the gold.
So Bobby, how long did it take you to do that? And I'll preface that by saying there might be a venue owner, new venue owner who's listening to this right now going, oh gosh, like that seems like a lot to coordinate, the catering and all this stuff, right? And then a whole wedding weekend, and it's a package. And so was that something that you went from blank canvas to the full scale thing? Was it a gradual process? What was that like for you?
It was gradual. I started adding on what I could. So at the beginning, it was, you can bring in any vendors you want. And then you start making these relationships with vendors, and they say, let's partner up. Like, we can be your every week trusted vendor. We can give your clients discounts for using us. And so make us exclusive, or make us at least preferred. So over time, we built that preferred list out. But I wouldn't just come out of the gate doing it, because you get some really bad service providers in this industry, and you can make yourself look really bad. I know I've been on the phone a lot of Sunday afternoons explaining to somebody that, hey, we weren't the ones that provided your floral, but I'll give you their phone number, or whatever it may be. So if you're ready to be responsible for everybody, that's when you can get in. But having a trusted network is super important, because if you don't trust the people you're going into business with, and you're saying that this is your floral provider, you're putting yourself out there to, maybe have a bad experience for the couple. So it was over time. I mean, it took me probably 3 or 4 years of adding, and figure out what we could offer internally, and then figure out what we needed to bring in from an outside vendor network.
How do you handle when you have to have a difficult, and now I guess, like when you have, let's say, florals, now they book the Triple Crown Gold, you've said, hey, this is our floral provider, something doesn't show up correctly or on time or whatever. Do you have like a one strike and you're out? You have other vendors that you've developed relationships with, or how do you handle some of those types of dynamics?
Yeah, great question. So I struggle with when they either just didn't show any respect to the client or us, and they show up late. We had a bartender that was hired one time come 2 hours into the reception, bringing in like hot drinks, like the beer wasn't cold and things like that. And so it's one of those, you're out, man. Like, I'm sorry that you didn't do a good job for yourself. But most of the other vendors in this industry, they do it every weekend. Like our floral provider probably does 5 or 6 a weekend. And so they know exactly how to do it. Their timing is good. And the reason I set up the appointment with the vendor is I'm not handling their floral appointment. I set it up with the floral vendor. So they actually go have the meeting themselves, understand there's a separation from the venue and the floral provider, even though the package includes everything. So they're paying one bill and then I'm paying the vendors out. So the administration is on our end, but they know that they're getting different businesses within that package.
Got it. So, and I'm so glad you clarified that. So for anyone who's listening, it sounds like you paid. Could you explain how you broke that apart? Like, how does the money come into you and then you delineate it? Or does the money you represented as one package, like this is an estimate of how much it'll cost, and then the client goes and pays everyone?
Yeah. So we break it up and give an allotment. And so everybody gets a certain allotment. And if they go over their allotment, then the couple is responsible for the allotment plus the overage, right? So and then we can break it down and show them we've charged them the allotment in each package, right? So if they get $2,000 for floral and they spent $3,000, then we just send them a final invoice for the $1,000 difference so that they got those extra roses or whatever they wanted on their arbor. And that's how we do it. Each DJ has an allotment. And if they wanted 2 extra hours with lights and sound or something special, then they just pay the additional to the DJ for the additional allotment overage.
One more question about this. How do you control if, to use your floral example, someone, there's $2,000 allotment for floral, but then they add on $3,000, you send them a bill later and they're like, nah, I didn't think it was $3,000. Wasn't it more like, additional $500? So it should be $2,500. Like, because aren't you getting the information from the floral provider?
Yeah. So they basically send the invoice and say, this is what they ordered. And so we'll be able to send it over and say, this is what you ordered. This is the cost from the florist. I don't know what to tell you. And then we always collect. The other thing for venue owners here is you always collect before the weekend starts. Don't do a payment plan. Don't do after the wedding weekend, because you know why? They'll never hear from you again. It's the one day they got everything they wanted, and then you will have a hard time chasing them down. And so lock the gate and say, we'll open it up at 3:00 when that check is paid, if they haven't paid, or you get it way in advance and you say, things are due several months before. This allows us to provide for everything you're going to need on your wedding weekend, because you can get yourself in a pickle where you're chasing money to pay your own staff and you're trying to run their wedding, 5-star. It's really a lot of responsibility if you haven't, pieced it out into a timeline.
Yeah. Gosh, that's awesome advice. And I love the way that you broke that down for us. I think it's such a elephant to have a venue, and in your case, multiple venues. And so for a lot of people, it's like, let's just go blank canvas and just do that. And then you end up kind of solving all the different problems that come with running a blank canvas venue. You've chosen to go more of that package, all-inclusive route. And that seems like it enables you to solve a lot of problems for the clients, because they're getting married for the first time and don't even know what's going on.
No, and they probably won't get married again, right? So it's kind of they're just doing it one time. They don't want to learn the process. They want it just to be done for them. And I'll tell you this, the overnight stay really inspired me to do this all-inclusive package, because we had people on the property all weekend and we were cleaning constantly. Instead of maybe a 4-hour venue, they open the doors, they party, they leave, you clean up the trash and turn the lights off. Our deal is mowing 30 acres, prepping, the cabin for 8 people to stay every Friday night through Sunday. It just creates a lot of work that we said, let's just offer it all here, because getting too many outside opinions and influences created more work on my end than just being able to do it all in-house.
And it sounds like too, with one, like if you're dealing with one couple, one bridal party for the whole weekend, and you price it appropriately, you don't have to turn it 3 or 4 different times, Yeah.
They're here all weekend. That's exactly right.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Bobby, this has been really, really incredible. I want to wrap this up by asking, so you've been doing this for several years on the wedding side, but you have your career in law. You're also an adjunct professor, correct? What percentage of your time would you say you spend on the venue right now versus some of the other things? And could you tell us a little bit about NIL, what that is, and the association you've started?
Sure. So we started a company in Nashville called Athlete Licensing Company. It's the NIL. It's a software platform that allows all these transactions to happen for athletes or agencies or these athletic departments that need to see who they're paying with these collectives that are popping up, and what the athletes are getting. So that was a full year in Nashville, which I really relied on my staff here but I would come every weekend and work at the venue, make sure everybody was on point and everything was looking good. And I was able to do a lot of the work at night. So now, because my staff is so fantastic, I have a venue director and then the assistant manager. I've got our property manager. I'm able to spend probably 20 to 30 hours a week on the venue, which is, either night work or discussions during the day with my staff, solving a client's issue on Airbnb, that kind of thing. Used to, I'd say it was about 50 to 60 hours in the first few years, sometimes 100-hour weeks. And I'm not lying. Sometimes in the summer, if the mowers didn't show up, I'm mowing all Wednesday, Thursday. I'm running the entire wedding from Friday to Sunday. It was 100 hours. It was exhausting. So now that my staff is fantastic, I wouldn't say it goes more than 20 to 30 hours a week now. With my consulting company, I'm able to work when I can and when I'm requested, which I love, because I've got clients that need steady legal work, but it's a week out, 2 weeks out. It's not necessarily the wedding is on Friday night and the water went out, and so I have to be up there, fixing a pipe or something like that. So I do a lot of different things, but luckily now, or thankfully, I'm able to step away from the venue side and do the big picture for the property and allow my staff really to handle the clients and do really a great job serving the people that come through the property.
That's incredible. That's inspiring to hear, because as an owner operator, it feels difficult at times because you are setting up the tables and chairs, you're mowing the lawn, you're doing all these different things. And to kind of hear your experience of gradually being able to step away from that and, 20 to 30 hours, I can imagine, that's doing some payroll stuff, that's looking at the books and doing some of those more administrative tasks. But again, you're more in charge of your time instead of being, reactive to the needs of the weddings. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today, kind of sharing about your venues. If people want to contact you and learn more about any of the different things that you do, whether that's the book, baseball, or the venues, what's the best place to contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best place probably is just to email me, bobbyjbramhall@gmail.com. But our websites are fantastic for information. So strawberrycreektn.com, holstonsprings.com, search Glamp Knox on Google and check us out. I'm happy to answer any questions, and you can contact us through those portals on the websites. And if you ever want to come see the property, I would love to have, anybody for a tour.
Cool. Awesome. And then also your book is available on Amazon.
Yeah. You need to check out the book. I'm telling you, if you're a parent, you're spending $40 to $50 per lesson right now. I played 7 years of professional baseball. I'm telling you, another $10, $15 on the book is worth $1 million in investments, because it's going to teach you so much that you're already going to try and learn in that 50 to an hour time period for $50. It's who'sonfirstbook.com. So who'sonfirstbook.com. And then you can go on Amazon and buy it. Who's on First, everything baseball players and their parents need to know. I'm telling you, Jonathan's read it. It was written in a way that really just talks to the parent and to the professional or the future athlete that's coming up in the game. We didn't want it to be an overview. We wanted to be very specific. So check it out. Send us a review too. That would really help, get the word out about this thing.
I owe you a review on it, more than this, but I owe you a review. So I'll get on that.
That was good. That'd be great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bobby. I appreciate your time today. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, enjoyed talking, man. Talk to you soon.
Pardon the interruption, I wanted to take a moment and share with you about WEVA. WEVA stands for Wedding and Event Venue Association, and it is a professional association custom built for venue owners and operators. We felt like there was a lack of resources, community, education, and networking available specifically for our industry, and so we recently started this association, and it's been growing by the day. We would love to extend an invite to you, so please click the link in the description or wherever you're watching this video, and we would love to welcome you into the community.